educators, we were meeting over 8 years in different places, and we were teaching one another what we were already teaching in our eco-villages and refining the curriculum. And at a certain stage, they said, well, we need to have somebody to lead. If we're going to organize ourselves under an NGO, we need somebody to lead. And I think I have organized one of the, or two of the meetings, and they look at me and say, maybe you could consider to lead the. And at that stage, I was already leading a UN training center, was too much, but I said, let me think about. And, you know, I went back to Finhorn, where I was based, and took a bus from the airport to Finhorn, about 2 hours journey. And I was brewing, I was kind of pondering, do I accept this role of, you know, leading Gaia Education? And I went to sleep, and when I woke up, and I look to the side through the window of the bus, and I saw this flock of geese flying in formation. And I got this inspiration that was like there was like a download, and said, yes, I can do so. If we take the lessons of the geese flying formation as the structure for the organization. There's lots of laws around geese flying formation. And then I came back and said, yes, I can do so. I can be the mother goose, be in the front while everybody's honking and behind. So everything that is Gaia Education is about geese flying formation. And in the geese flying formation, you lead for a little bit, and then you reposition yourself, and then somebody else will lead, and in and out. I've been the mother goose, repositioned myself, and in and out for some time now. So for those who don't know, I've been struggling with my Mac to reform it for tonight, but Gaia Education's mission is, or aspiration and service to the world, is being a leading edge provider of sustainability education, promoting thriving communities within planetary boundaries. And of course, we have to honor our roots, because if we don't honor our roots, it's like trying to cut flowers. So our roots come from the Eco-Village movement. Here we are, 23 of us, meeting over 8 years. We're all coming from the laboratories of sustainability, and we're trying, under the vision of Hilda, we're trying to see how can we put together a curriculum that can help people to have the same experience and get the same competences and skills needed to redesign our human presence in different contexts and in different regions of the world. And after 8 years of meeting, we created what we call the Gaia DNA. At that stage, the whole world was discussing about the need for education for sustainability that would help the implementation of Agenda 21. 2015, when we were established, was also the launch of the UN Decade of Education for Sustainable Development. The member states were realizing that Agenda 21 was an incredible agenda, but people didn't know how to implement, and how to means capacity building. So we were founded at the same time that there was this emerging awareness, international awareness, that we need a different type of education. But the common ground was that we need to work with the social, ecological, and economic. And after years of discussing, we put the fourth pillar, which is the worldview. And I'll talk more about the worldview aspect. This was our DNA in 2015.
2005.
2005. And we started running our first courses that many of you would know, called ED, Eco-Village Design Education. And today this is our learning universe. We continue, all our programs are based upon this DNA, but we have a whole universe of e-learning. We teach design for sustainability, different languages, different formats, 15 hours, year-long, postgraduate. This is a whole universe of e-learning. One of our main sources of income. We've grown 62% of sales of this course the last year only. It's a growing edge. We also have This is one of, we have the project-based learning, and I'll talk more about the PBL. So it's like we take a community or a region together in a journey of 3-4 years where we learn and develop projects together. A whole new universe is emerging now, which is a need that is coming from those who are working with teachers' education and also with children's education. So it's Gaia School, Gaian schools, teachers training, and also Gaia Youth. Most recently, we launched a TOT, training of trainers, and we have our specific SDG training that is in partnership with UNESCO. So this is how we evolved over the last decade. We have 100 partners, 101 partners right now in the planets. These are places where run our certified programs and spread all over the world. And we serve 3 types of constituencies that we call the Changemakers, the Localizers, and the Empowered. The Changemakers are those who live in cities, have a high consumption lifestyle, and realize there's something wrong and they want to change the way that they live. And they come and do our programs, they get inspiration, and they apply in their personal lives and start running their projects. The localizers are like ourselves, those who are working locally, but also connected in huge networks and exchanging. We are part of communities of learning, communities of practice, and many localizers come in and out of our programs, get more inspiration, bring some of their learning to us, and we're exchanging. And the empowered are those who we are working that are coming mainly from the global south. They've been hit by climate change, desertification, salinization of soil, and we take them into a journey of empowerment. All our students, they come, we have a very strict kind of M&E, monitoring evaluation of the success of our programs, and they all answer the same type of questionnaire, and for 11 years right now, we have been measuring the overall satisfaction of our students. We have 47 of excellent, 37% to 45. So we have 92% of our students from 110 nationalities in 47 countries. 92% they say the program either is excellent or good. So we're not big, but we deliver quality work. This is outdated. We now reached 110. Mainly because we've been working with the migrants community, so we're teaching people coming from countries that we were never going to be able to go there and teach, particularly in Amstrup, here with the Red Cross in Denmark. This is a picture I took with many of the Syrian women of a course this year in Amstrup. Okay, very briefly to give you a more of an introduction of Gaia Education, and then we're going to go deeper into one of our case studies. This is the e-learning aspect I've mentioned to you. This is one of our major sources of income. This year we have grown overall, 60% of the intake of students with our English, the Spanish, and the Portuguese course. The training of trainers as well this year was amazing, 591% or more students than the previous year. And this is the PBL, the third stream, and that's the one I want to focus with you this evening. Was a request from both Niels and Ross that I'll spend more time talking about how we're maximizing edges between the work that and the process of education that we offer to the world and the need of different communities that have been somehow caught either with a very, very accelerated change because of the environment, because of the economy. And we work very much with the concept of maximizing edges. Before I go to the maximizing edges, I would like to say that Gaia Education has since the beginning worked with this principle of Paulo Freire, who is one of my teachers during university time that education, first of all, is not about, you know, filling a bucket with knowledge. Is igniting the fire. You know, it's about igniting the fire, and a teacher is there as to create a learning environment where people get into accessing through experience and through reflection, make the connections needed in order to become more engaged with life. So it is important to say there is a very good balance in our pedagogy and also in our content, a balance between reflection on the state of the world, and then action. Paulo Freire would say an education that emphasizes reflection becomes a rhetoric education. We should do this, we shall do this and that, or an education that, maybe you can help me with this, that emphasize action, or an organization that only wants to activate change with not enough reflection. You don't go to the roots, the cause and the roots of the problems that we are trying to address through education. So reflection and action is part of our methodology all the time. And looking at how we work, Gaia Education comes from the Eco-Village movement, but very, very quick. We went beyond the Eco-Village movement, and in many countries we don't teach in any Eco-Village. We teach in slums, in eco-neighborhoods, in universities, in R&D centers, and we still teach in eco-village, but we honor our roots, but we're much more into different contexts. And when you look at edge is that region between two ecosystems. I mean, when you look at, for instance, tropical forests meeting savanna, there's an edge, what we call an ecotone. Ecotone is this. It is this region where you have the species of the forest, you have the species of the savanna, and you create conditions for new species to come. So you have all the species from this ecosystem, this species, and then you create conditions for different species. So normally, when you want to, in ecological design, when you want to increase diversity or increase the potential for life, you increase the edges. So we are always working on the edges where problems emerge, and we see problems as an opportunities for turning degenerative processes in regenerative process. So the edge is a place of richness. And if we think about using reflection and action within edge, normally we come up with some solutions that we wouldn't be able to come up with solutions if we're discussing linearly. This is a problem, maybe we adopt this strategy or that strategy. So thinking about edges and reflection and action, this is a place where we try to come up with new solutions. The ancient people of the Amazon, which are my ancestrals in Brazil, they would say when two ecosystems meet, pay attention, or go very slowly, or walk very quietly, because there is a place where the earth rests. That's a place of diversity. That's a place where life is the beginning of life. So we always go very, very quietly and address the edge. And in the ecological sciences, the edge is called ecotone, that comes from the Greek, which is echo, which is the ecologic, to tone, which is like ecology's intention. Ecotone is ecology's intention. So you have savanna and forest, all the species and new species. You want to maximize edges, you maximize life, and you maximize diversity. And I have coined a new term based on the ecotone, which is sociotone, which is society's intention. That's exactly what's happening right now, particularly with the migration happening in the world right now. We're having, there's a whole, we've never been in such a wave of migration in the history of humanity. Today, 2 out of 3 people in the world live in a place different than the place that you were born. 2 out of 3 people live in a place that is different than where you're born. And this wave is just growing. So all this mobility, this human mobility, is creating this social tone, lots of tension. But in tension there is diversity, and in diversity there is life. If we work with the same concept of ecotone, social tone, we'll be able to maybe to do something that will create some solutions. And that's the case study I want to bring to you tonight. It's one of our projects, one of our PBLs, Project-Based Learning, is based in Sicily. So as you know, when we started this project in 2015, it was very clear that at that stage was maybe in May, June of 2015, we had 153,000 disembarkation in Sicilian ports. Sicily is an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and it's equidistant from Africa to Europe. So it is one of the most active ports of disembarkation particularly for the migrants coming from the Sahel, from northern Africa. So there were, since 2008 in Sicily, they never recuperated themselves from the financial crisis. It was like they were unable to. And they had 52% of unemployment for the youth. So it's like, can you imagine, you received in 9 months, of the first 9 months, you receive 83,000 people that you need to socio-economic integrate them in a place that hasn't recuperated financially since and you still have 52% of your students that kind of graduate and they don't have jobs. How would you do that? That's social tone, that's society's intention. Huh? But at the same time, Sicily is a crossroads of agriculture because it has been invaded by so many civilizations that they had incredible soil because of the Etna, a very rich soil, and Sicily has been considered the garden of Europe for years. It has the best citrus, the best oranges and lemons and vegetables. So you have had this knowledge of the farmers for many, many years. Farmers recuperating 43 types of ancient grains. So you have all of this, and you also had the largest surface of organic land. So basically, that's maximizing edges. When you kind of constellate all the problems together, and you start looking, say, how can we maximize edges here and create something that could tap into the tensions and the resolutions. So here we had a huge flow of migrants and refugees. We had abandoned land, and also we had confiscated land from the mafia, huge pieces of land, and also many ghost towns, which are towns that have been abandoned. Over 60 agricultural ghost villages, completely abandoned. Then you had the unemployed youth, you had a very fertile land, you had organic farmers and producers, and then we had organic buyers, ethical organic buyers like Vocal from the juice, Lush from the cosmetics, and Real Foods, from UK we buy bulk food from ethical, paying fair prices. So you had the buyers, you had all of this together, and then you had Gaia Education wanting to do something. Because if we're in the business of building capacity for the redesign of our human presence in the world, we can only test if we're really effective going situations like that. Otherwise, we're teaching one another and we're having great time. Mm-hmm. So going on those places and testing what we have been learning, and living in our laboratories of the eco-villages, So we made first agreement with the University of Catania, because it's really important when we come into any country that we have strong, respectable partners. And we start having meetings and charrettes, design charrettes. Ross came into one of them. And then suddenly we created a pathway. We created a pathway that we could take all of this in consideration, maximize the edges, and turn into a positive. So our approach was to support the socioeconomic integration of migrants arriving in Sicily, to sustainable community design and agroecological capacity building activities, with a view of creating an alternative trading platforms for selling the products that the buyers were desperate. And they somehow, the linkage was not there. But the same way, we realized that we could not do anything, any project that we will only embrace and consider the migrants. We needed to bring the unemployed youth. So these young people, they go through the same type of programs that all our EDs all over the world, the 4 weeks, social design, ecologic, economic, and worldview. They go to, but then they go with a specialization, three months training in the job in the organic farms, and then during this process, many ideas emerged and some business as well. So tonight I want to present the one that has been emerged, which is Grani di Gaia, the grain of Gaia. This is the first company that we generated. We call much more than pasta. And as you can see, in this business you have Sicilians and you have migrants together. One of our teachers is one of our colleagues from Torre Superiore, which is an eco-village that has retrofitted over 25 years an abandoned medieval village. So he came and taught how to do pasta. And this is also a master baker from a village in the middle of nowhere in Sicily. They created this, and I'm sorry I have no pasta to show you, because I've given today to the pasta that I had, I gave to the Gaia Trust board. But I have an apron. So we created with them 3 of these people entering to a branding course. So they learn how to create a website, how to brand, how to develop a logo, and they came up with this, back here, much more than pasta. Why? Because there is a history, there's a whole history behind the pack of pasta, and there's 6 types of pasta, and they've given the name. One is peace, joy, trust, courage, soul, and hope. And each one of them is one type of pasta. So this is one of the business. Right now we are entering the second phase of the business. We're getting a much larger investment from some of our sponsors, becoming now investors, because they saw that we can actually turn a situation that is like none of the EU policies so far were able to tackle into something that is not only creating the socio-economic integration of the migrants, but also is empowering the Sicilian youth into not waiting for a job, but creating their own job. And this is the first of a series, and we have now a warehouse with buying machines. We're going to create this amount of kilos of pasta per day, employing more people, and also starting our own process scheme of oranges and lemons for essential oils. So this is one of our case studies, and I was asked also to bring some of the new trends of Gaia Education and open into dialogue. And I would say that, as Ross mentioned in his overture, that Gaia Education has been teaching SDGs since SDGs didn't exist. So there was like a coherence and mutual reinforcement between what we were already teaching and what we came up as a global discussion, which is like the framework for us between 2015 and 2030. So Once we consolidating the 70 goals, Gaia Education developed a tool which is another set of cards, different from Gen cards, which are the SDG cards, together with UNESCO, which are cards that come with questions, deep questions for generating conversations in communities, so that through conversations, ideas can come and turn into three areas. One is to influence policy, the second one is to generating activities, and the third one is related to creating educational programs as well. UNESCO has adopted the set of cards, and we have now been teaching for 4 or 5 months, and their aim is to train in 3 years' time 150,000 multipliers of SDGs implementers through using this tool card. We've done, I think in these 4 months that we started, we've done about maybe 400, 500 students so far that have the packs, and they're translating into, we have already English, French, Spanish and Portuguese, we sell online, and we're in process of translating in Arabic and Russian, which is the 5 UN languages. This is one of our, this was a training that we've given to grassroots activists in Thailand, from Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar and China. They all came, and they all took this back into their villages, and they are very happy when they took this, because all these pictures that are here in these SDG cards, they're pictures of our classrooms. Most of the pictures here, either UN pictures or is our classrooms. And they say, we want to take a picture because we want to be in the next card that you make. So they are here with the pictures. Okay, this is another trend, which is our BDE. We've been receiving requests for some time that people that don't live in eco-village, don't live in urban neighborhoods, but they want to take our methodologies and our content into regions. So we have developed most recently a new program called BDE, Bioregional Design Education, and with the intent of growing bioregional regenerative development networks. Our intention is to have 5 pilots between 2018 and 2019, and this is a blended learning. It's over a 10 months program. Some of the work is face-to-face and some of the work is online. Creating strategies, bioregional strategies for regenerative development. And the final trend that I want to share with you is about this request from some of our partners saying, May, we've been teaching adult, because we've always been connected to adult education, but what about teaching children? What about youth? What about schools? So we're doing the same process as we've done with the development of the EDE. We're starting a series of meetings with those who are already teaching children. And the first one is going to be in Estonia. Estonia because Tallinn, University of Tallinn, and Estonia itself is one of the first countries, Estonia, India and Brazil, that took our curriculum and started to adapt for primary education. So we're developing 4 new strands: the Gaia schools, Gaia in schools, Gaia youth and teachers training. We are a very small team. We're about 9 of us, and some of us based in Scotland, some of us in other places of the globe, Desauna. And we say that, alone we fly quickly, but together we fly further. So that's who we are. So thank you.
Okay.
So,
comments and questions?
Or comments or reflections.
Reflections. Actions.
Very disappointing there was no picture from the training in London.
Oh, I'm really concerned. I got really concerned about that, of using and not asking for authorization. And I didn't put Langland as well as one of them. But I think it's important what you said, because what Gaia Education has been responding to this need of bioregional design education, while here in Langland and raw supporting and news and you know, developing the same thing. Maybe you want to say a little bit what you're doing.
No, I just appreciate the training you did there. A lot of people got a good outcome from it. We were, what, 15 people who did the training and using the SDGs. It was very inspiring.
And with Langland as well, with the Langland team, we have done some work, and with Camilla, we started doing the ED, Migrants Design Education. We're teaching the socio-ecological, economic and worldview for migrants there, particularly for Eritreans, right?
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'd be interested to discuss the difference between the sort of thing that's going on in Langland, which is a relatively small area of 12,000 people, and what Gaia Education is calling the bioregional design education. That's normally a much larger region, is that right?
Well, because we haven't started yet, in concept, we're looking at, we have a group of Maui University wanting to do the whole of the island of Maui. And we want the University of Isla Baleares in Mallorca wanting to do whole of the island. But they are much, you know, the scale is bigger than Langland, but the principles are similar. It's just a question of scale.
One of the things I think Niels is concerned about in Langland is that if you get too big an area, it's difficult to create the social network in a cohesive way. Wouldn't you say that, Niels? If it's too big?
Yeah, I think that you have to start on a scale where the self-identification is very strong to create a common platform. And then you can scale by having other communities and then start working with communities. But eventually we have to reach bioregional scale. I agree.
Well, we haven't tested yet, so we are somehow following your footsteps and you following our footsteps. We have to keep, you know, exchanging notes. In our case, we start with a small group of about 50 people. That's how we're going to start. But they represent different sectors. And they are going to come up with strategies in the 4 dimensions. And these strategies are connected to more people coming in. So that's how we envision the capillarity of the process, but we start with groups of 30, 50 people. With a very strong academic support, we decided to have an academic support as an experiment. We don't know if it was better to have a support from local government or from academic or both, but at this stage we are partnering. Most of the initiatives that we are brewing right now are in partnership with universities.
Okay. Yes, Björn?
The examples from Sicily was very exciting, I think. As we all have this problem with all those people who are coming from Africa, and I've heard some people talking about that you, instead of doing a lot of other things, you should give them some kind of education and make them go back to where they come from to develop some good things there. What is your plan with the community in Sicily when they have reached the level of?
We have 3 interconnected plans. It's called Sicilia Integrated Project. So we have those who we are training that will stay. We have those that we are training that will go back.
Okay.
And then we have some that we are training, and they're going to start working with us in bigger social enterprise. Our first kind of a dream is to start retrofitting the ghost towns and turning them into communities, multicultural communities that you can have those who come from Africa, but there's, you know, those from Northern Europe that comes for Sicily for health and well-being, because Sicily is an incredible place for good food and vitamins and all of that. So we want to turn some ghost towns, and we have 3 mayors in 3 cities offering us ghost towns to say, come, find investment. We want to train the migrants to retrofit as we've done Torre Superiore, but this is to retrofit to have communities of spars, but where food is grown locally and people live there. It's not like a, so that's one of the dreams. The other one is about all the business related to food, the essential oils, the pastas, and we Grani di Gaia is the first product. We're creating a basket, because it's not only the pasta, you want to buy the pestos, the tomato sauces, you want to buy the whole thing. You want to bring the whole thing together. Then there is huge amount of properties and land confiscated from the mafia. And what we want to create, but we don't want to bring, to turn the migrants into peasants. We want them to create business with the young ones and to create something that is multicultural and is empowering. But we have many of those who come back, they go through this incredible journey and very, very difficult. They normally will pass through the hands of at least 2 human traffickers, one to cross the Sahel and the other one to cross the Mediterranean. And they have, each one is a dramatic story behind each one of those young people who come. But some of them, when they arrive there, they realize that, wow, I should have stayed. But because they came with a huge effort of their families, the whole village put together, the money these people need to pay to the human traffickers to cross the Sahel and then to cross the Mediterranean, they feel obliged in sending money back, because they know they have this very deep, they're not going to disappear, they have this deep commitment to their villages and families. So some of them, and we have recorded, I'm putting together film of many of those who said to me sincerely, I want to go back. I would like to go back to do this. So our approach, not right now. Right now we're putting all the little business to work. As soon as this starts working and we show that we can make money by selling pasta, pesto and all, and this is a mixed, we want to start working with EU and the governments and saying, okay, we train people coming because they already came. They go back and they start training the young people there, so the young people, they tell their stories so they don't come anymore. So it's interesting because we have projects taking place in many of the countries. When they come in, and say, I am from Bangladesh, I say, I have a 4-year project supported by Scottish government in Coon and Bagherhat. I said, what? Coon? That's where I come from. Yeah, I'm working there. And then in Senegal, wow, we're in the Podor region. Oh, I'm just near Podor, So because we also teaching and working in the land, so there is this connectivity. Some of them will stay, some will return, and we want to create the conditions for them to return and become connected. The sense of belonging is really important, because then they become, I am one of the 12,000 designers of sustainability of Gaia Education, and they see all our pictures and they see the eco-villages, they get excited because they belong to something that is larger. But whatever is larger and is global values the small, the local, the community-based. So we're not into, come and do our course and turn into a Western European consumidor, somebody who consumes. It's like they having the education that can be applied into their scale as well. Yeah.
I think this is a very important point that you're bringing up here, is that the only really long-term solution to the immigration problem is to allow them to create jobs in their own countries. Yeah. And the problem is that we're not allowing them to do that with our trade policies and with our foreign aid policies. So I think what you people are doing is a much more effective way to tackle the problem than our government is doing.
Yes. We have been quoted many times in places and things, but right now I don't want too much flashlight in us, because in the beginning everybody, that's a great idea. I said, well, when the light is too strong and you don't have roots, maybe sometimes the plant dies. So let me It was a working hypothesis that I had, 2 years ago, that bringing buyers, farmers, teachers from Gaia Education plus teachers of university and migrants and employed youth. So now we have in the first social enterprise emerging. We sold last month 350 packs of pasta, but it's still very expensive because we pay fairly the farmer. It's an ancient grain which is then milled in an ancient water mill, and we want to pay everybody. And at the very end, 500 grams of pasta costs €2.30, while in any pasta, normal pasta in Sicily, with the flour that comes from Canada, in big ships full of rats, they can make 500 grams for 40 cents of an euro. And ours, because we are supporting local economy, Carla La Placa, the farmer earns, the mill earns, the master baker earns, and the migrants are employed. So one pack is 3.20 euros. But people are buying because they like it's much more than pasta.
It's so good. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Anybody? Any more comments? Yeah.
It's a long night. Yeah.
Well, it's perhaps a stupid question, but the Gaia Education, is that only focused on ecology and practice? I noticed on one of the first slides you used the word Ecotone, which not many Danes know what Ecotone is. Does the Gaia Education also teach something about the science of ecology?
Yes, we do. We do in our courses the ecological design aspect. We have modules. One is going to be conservation, another one is energy, built environment. So depending where this course takes place, you tap into the knowledge and the teachers of the region that will be able to, and then even the ecology, there will be one more level that will be deep ecology at certain stage. We also bring deep ecology, RNS and all that philosophical stream, but we have the science as well, certainly, yeah. It is a well-informed course, it's not taken lightly. That's why I said we've been inspired since the beginning. We bring lots of reflection and then balance with action. For us, it's not enough doing things all over without enough reflection. So the reflection is doing through the lens of science, certainly, yeah, and research and all that. We have a very, very good kind of a roster of trainers, when we talk about economy, like we have the Ross Jackson, Jonathan Dawes, Elena Norbert Hodge. These were the elders that informed our curriculum, and then we have Max Lindegar, Declan Kenny, some of those very, very wise people informing the ecological design. So just that we are now 2 or 3 generations, they are still active, but we bring in new generations of new thinking into our development of the curriculum. Our curriculum now is in its 6th version. We're operating for 11 years, so every 2 years we revise the whole thing. Because sometimes we are ahead of the game, and sometimes the world catch up with us and we're talking about, ecological footprint, with something that we don't talk anymore, But when we were talking, it's like you have to keep up with the concept sometimes. And we have in-house, we have one of the best thinkers, contemporary thinkers of our times for regenerative design, Dr. Daniel Wall. He's a part of Gaia Education team. He has just revised all our materials. So right now we are ahead of the game. And in 2 years' time we may be behind and we have to catch up again. Yeah.
Okay.
One more?
Yes.
Can I have one more?
Hi, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I work with the Danish folk school movement and I teach sustainability. And you've talked a lot about the curriculum, the kind of content, but you also mentioned Paulo Freire and the idea of pedagogy, and I'd be very interested to hear more about the kind of the pedagogy or the how of how you do it.
Yeah,
because that's very much an issue in the folk schools. We have a lot of freedom, pedagogical freedom. Yeah, so I'd be very interested.
Yeah, so I think that you can use the metaphor of the wine and the content of the wine. Like sometimes, we're part of UNESCO Global Action Program with 70 educational organizations in the world. We've been selected to advance the decade of ESD, Education Sustainable Development, further after the 10 years. And you have very conventional organizations, and we have great content coming into the bottle, but the bottle is the same. And we talk about both the content and the container being different. And of course, in our case, we have inspiration. We have two major types of inspiration. One comes from Asia, the other ones come from South America. So when we developed the TOT, which is a training of trainers, it's where how you teach. For instance, if I was doing a TOT here, I would never be doing a presentation like I've done today, but that was like a request. So basically, participatory pedagogy is very wide, but I'll give you an example. Yeah, from Asia, we've been working with SEM, which is Purity in Education Movement. These are the movement of engaged Buddhists, and we have a guy called Prasha, who has been a partner of myself and Finn Horn and Gaia Education for 20 years now. And Prasha was a monk and Marxist, and he had a little bit of background as I had when I was young in Brazil. But Prasha has a huge influence into the engaged Buddhist movement in our practices, and I come being one of the pupils of Paulo Freire, bringing some of the Freirean approaches as well. So mix between these two, plus the social embrace of the eco-villages, where everything is done in group. In Finn Horn, for instance, there's group for everybody, for everything. There's even a group for those who don't have a group. So it's like everything you do is collective intelligence. Everything is co-created. There's not somebody who leads and say that's how the way it's going to be. It's everything. And for you to co-create in group, you need to have methodologies. You need to make sure that everybody speaks and we have voices, and we need to know, to create the practices of participatory learning, which is you have the experience, you create the experience, then you reflect on the experience, then you extract the lessons learned, and then you have concepts, and then you take those concepts and try to apply in reality. Very different than I say, listen, for creating an eco-village, you need to do A, B, C, D, E. And, tick this box, and it's very different than you creating a situation where people can have the ideas, and then you harvest, and then you go and test. It's a different wheel of route of learning, and it's very empowering, because actually in neuroscience you create many more synapses when you think for yourself. When somebody doesn't bring you the solutions, you create much more synapses, so it's much more awakened than somebody telling you what to do. So, a little bit of a taste, but come and do one of our TOTs, because we want to learn from you. How do you do in your folk schools?
Time for one more question?
One more question.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I actually have two questions. Well, one, have you heard of the organizational system holacracy?
Yes.
Okay, because, I mean, not that I know enough about your structure, but it sounded a little bit like that. I don't know if you're influenced by that or inspired by that.
No, we're really inspired by the geese flying formation. That's our main. It's like really biomimicry, mimicking nature, you know. Sometimes, you know, either I get tired or something, I reposition myself and then somebody will to take, we honk. And there is proof that, you know, through the geese, there's a science of geese. You gain over 70% of strength in going forward because of the geese flying behind you, honking, you know, honk, 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 honk. So you gain much more strength. So we really
should do that
work
exercise.
Yes.
So we can eventually.
Yeah, we can
Well, the other one,
honk
just a
towards
quick
the
question.
tea break.
The other one is, so you're telling us about the pasta company.
Yes.
And so understanding sustainability or systems thinking and then being an entrepreneur those are very different skills. So do you include an entrepreneurship accelerator or how do you do that to?
Well, we have brought Sicilian, there was this guy here who is here, Maurizio Spinello. He was not an accelerator, but he was a visionary. I'll tell you Maurizio. So we basically use the resources of the ecosystems that we are working. We don't bring so much imports. We listen to the field. And the way we listen to the field in this case is that in the economic design week of the migrants and employed youth, we brought some people, business, and in the afternoon we were baking pasta, learning how to bake pasta. And some of them got really excited in learning pasta. And I said, okay, so who makes pasta? Da, da, da. And we took them to Maurizio Spinello, who is this guy, living in a village that was becoming as 12,000 villages in southern Italy by 2020 are going to become ghost towns. Young people are going to the north because there's no employment, and old people die, and he was in one of those villages. There was 9 people in his village, and he looked around and said, well, I may need to migrate. And he looked around in his region and saw there was not one bakery. And he had this incredible idea, I'm going to open a bakery here. So he started connecting with the farmers and buying and creating the most successful bakery of the region. Last year, during Milano Expo, he was the master baker. He was baking bread to all VIPs. He's a hero in Sicily and in Italy of re-energizing a whole economy of a region by opening a bakery and honoring the roots of the ancient grain, of the local farmer, and creating the supply chain. So we don't bring accelerators or systems thinking. We work in the region and say, well, resources, interest, who can come in. And when we came there and brought the migrants and said, oh, by the way, I need more labor here. Can you teach them why they learn with a master baker? And then can we create a sub-brand from Forno Santa Rita? We can promote your bread, you promote our pasta. So it's like this way is not, it's maximizing edges.
But you're taking someone who knows the local economy and has business skills and has gone through this process himself to teach your community.
To teach those guys, yes. So we take the local resources. Yeah, sometimes we bring from outside, but yeah.
I think we've run a bit over, so I think we'll say thank you very much, May.
Yeah.